Have you ever felt the burning heat of the sun, as if it not only burned your skin, but penetrated deep into your soul? Have you ever wondered what makes a person standing on the edge of life and death, but being drawn by mysterious figures? Do these questions, like the dry wind blowing through the desert, make you curious? Join me on a journey to discover a mystery, where the New Mexico sun burned my soul as I dug my own grave, but 4 ghosts at the edge of the hole stopped me. I am Jacob Harlan, a rancher who once had everything and then nothing. Standing in the New Mexico desert under a scorching sun that seems to devour my soul, I hold a shovel, my calloused hands shaking with fatigue and unending pain. Each blow of the shovel into the red earth is a knife cutting into my heart, where only the fragments of a shattered life remain. 3 years ago, I lost Mary, my gentle wife with a smile as bright as the dawn, and Tommy, my 5-year-old son with eyes that sparkled with faith in the world. The plague took them away, leaving me alone in this ruined ranch where laughter once rang out. Now only the wind whistled through the cracks of the rotting log cabin. If this tale grabs you, give a thumbs up and type 2 in the comments. Watch to the end for a reveal that'll leave you speechless. Today, I decided to end it all. I am 45, older than I really am because of sleepless nights, because of nightmares about Mary's pale face and Tommy's little hand reaching out to me in his fever. I dug this hole, 20 feet deep, right next to the old oak tree where I used to sit with Mary on peaceful afternoons, watching Tommy run among the cattle. The hole is not for a dead horse or a sick cow. It is for me. A homemade wooden cross lies beside it, engraved with a simple inscription. This is the resting place of one who has given up. No name, no date. No one left to remember Jacob Harlan, and I don't want anyone to remember. The desert sun burned me alive, sweat running down my forehead, mixing with the red dirt that clung to my skin. I paused for a second, leaning against the shovel handle, breathing heavily. My heart slowed, as if it were tired of going on. I looked down at the hole, black and cold, inviting me. Just lie down, let the dirt cover me, and the pain would end. No more dreams of Mary calling my name in the darkness. No more images of Tommy laughing as I taught him to ride. Just darkness, peaceful and eternal. But then a shadow appeared at the edge of the pit. Not one, but 4 tiny shadows, cast against the red earth in the blazing sun. I looked up, my eyes blurred with sweat and dust, trying to see clearly. 4 girls stood there, like ghosts from another world. The oldest, maybe 15, stood in front, her blue eyes sharp but trembling with fear. Her brown hair was disheveled, her dress torn and dirty, as if she had rolled across half a desert to get here. The 3 younger ones, ranging from 6 to 10, stood behind her, huddled together like fledglings shivering in a storm. The youngest, with her eyes wide and a ragged rag doll clutched tightly in her arms, looked at me as if I were her whole world at that moment. "Who are you?" I roared, my voice hoarse from the heat and the suddenness that made my heart beat faster. In the 3 years I had lived as a recluse in this damned land, I had never seen a soul. The nearest town was 20 miles away, across a desert so harsh that even a man like me feared it. And yet here stood 4 children, frail girls with bare, scratched feet, in front of the hole I intended to bury myself in. "We need your help," the eldest said. Her voice was steady, but I could hear the tremor underneath, like a stretched string about to snap. Her name was Sarah, I learned later. Sarah, with a look of both determination and despair in her eyes, as if she had seen too many things a child should not have seen. "Help?" I almost laughed, but the sound caught in my throat. "You girls have the wrong girl. There's nothing I can do to help. I can't even help myself." I gripped the shovel handle, trying to keep my voice cool. I didn't want to get involved, didn't want to feel, didn't want to remember the loss I felt as I watched Mary and Tommy slip away from me. But Sarah did not retreat. She took a step forward, her bare feet imprinting the red dirt. "We have no one else," she said, her voice low but sharp as a knife. "If you don't help us, they will kill us." The word kill stabbed into my chest like an arrow. I looked more closely, dried blood on Sarah's sleeve. Bruises on the youngest girl's arm, Lily's, like the fingerprints of a sadist. Cuts on another's hand, as if she had tried to fight back. These girls were not lost. They were running from something worse than the death I had chosen. "Who wants to kill you?" I heard myself ask, though my inside screamed at me not to care, not to get involved. But Sarah's voice, small but powerful, made it impossible for me to turn away. "The people at the orphanage," she whispered. "They think we saw something we shouldn't have." I felt a chill run down my spine, even as the sun burned my skin. The orphanage. I had heard whispers of such places, places where children disappeared without a trace, where money changed hands to cover up crimes no one dared to speak of. But that was someone else's business, not mine. I had given up on this world. I had given up on myself. "You can't be here," I said, my voice hard, trying to push back the feeling rising in my chest. Something like life, something I had tried to bury long ago. "This is my land, and I'm busy." I pointed down at the hole, as if that were the final answer. Sarah looked down into the pit, then back at me. Her eyes seemed to see right through me, through the layers I had built to hide my pain. "She didn't ask anything," she said, referring to the youngest, Lily, who was clutching the doll as if it were the only thing keeping her from fading away. "But we can't go back. They'll kill us." The words were like a punch to the gut. I wanted to scream that I didn't care, that I'd been dead for 3 years, this corpse dragging me through the day. But then Lily looked up, her eyes wide, and I saw Tommy in them. Tommy with his bright smile, with the belief that his father was the hero who could protect him from anything. My heart, which I thought was dead, pounded, as if it were being ripped apart. "Who are they?" I asked, my voice hoarse from the smoke and the emotion I didn't want to admit. Sarah hesitated, then said, "Gideon Blackwood. He ran an orphanage, but it wasn't a foster home. It was a place where children disappeared. We saw him kill a woman, a journalist. She had evidence." Evidence. The word made my head spin. I knew the name Gideon Blackwood. Who in these 3 counties didn't? A wealthy businessman with control of almost everything: land, banks, sheriffs, and judges. He was the king of this damned land, and I, a failed rancher, standing in a hole of my own making, was now being dragged into a nightmare bigger than the death I had chosen. Can 4 frightened girls change a broken man's fate? Stick around to see how this unfolds. I looked at Sarah, then at the 3 girls standing behind her, Lily with the tattered doll, Clara, about 8, her hands shaking but trying to hold her sisters, and Hannah, maybe 10, with a defiant look in her eyes despite her pale face of hunger and fear. They weren't Tommy, they weren't Mary, but they were here, right in front of me, and they needed me, needed Jacob Harlan, the man who'd given up everything but still had something in his chest that was trying to live. "Where did you come from?" I asked, my voice softening against my will. "We walked," Sarah said. 2 days through the desert, no water, no shade. 2 days, through the damn desert." I couldn't imagine how they'd survived, with their bare feet and torn dresses. But Sarah's eyes told me they hadn't just survived. They'd fought their way here, to me, as if fate had led them to this hole where I was meant to bury myself. And then I saw it. A cloud of dust on the horizon, moving fast, straight toward the farm. Horses, at least 4 of them, charging forward like hunting ghosts. Sarah saw it too, and her face was as white as bone. "They found us," she whispered, her voice shaking but unbroken. I looked at the dust, then at the hole. I had intended to lie down, let the red earth swallow me, forget all the pain. But now, 4 girls stood before me, and death was no longer an escape. It was a curse, a cowardice that I could not allow myself to choose. Not now, not with those eyes looking at me, begging for a chance to live. "Get in the house!" I roared, climbing out of the hole, my hands gripping the shovel handle as if it were my last weapon. Sarah hesitated, taking my hand, small but strangely strong. "You don't understand," she said. "They have papers, legal papers. If they find us, they'll take us back, and you'll be charged with kidnapping." Kidnapping. That word was like another knife, cutting into the glimmer of hope I had. I was just a rancher, not a hero. But when I looked into Sarah's eyes, Lily's, Clara's, Hannah's, I knew I couldn't turn away. Not today. Not when fate had placed them in my hands, as a last chance to redeem what I had lost. "Go!" I shouted, and this time Sarah nodded, pulling the children toward the ruined cabin. I stood there, watching the dust cloud grow closer, my heart pounding harder than it had in 3 years. I, Jacob Harlan, who had given up on the world, now had a choice. Continue digging the hole to bury myself, or stand up and face the evil that was coming to take these children. And in that moment, I knew I had made the choice, not because I wanted to, but because I had to. I stood before the cabin, my hands still stained with red dirt from the hole I had dug, my heart pounding as if it would burst out of my chest. The 4 girls, Sarah, Clara, Hannah, and Lily, had run inside at my command, but I knew the cabin was no safe haven. It was a pile of rotten wood, full of cracks, ready to collapse in any strong wind, let alone the oncoming men. The dust on the horizon was clearer now, the silhouettes of horses galloping like predators. I counted 4, maybe more, and they weren't moving like strays. They had a purpose. They had come for the girls. I turned and walked quickly into the house, trying to stay calm despite the turmoil inside. Sarah was kneeling beside Lily, the youngest, stroking her hair and whispering something reassuring. Clara and Hannah stood near the window, their eyes glued to the approaching dust. Sarah's eyes met mine, and for a moment I saw the world in them, fear, courage, and a determination I had long lost. "Who are they?" I asked again, my voice hoarse from the dust and the emotion rising within me. "You said they had papers. What papers? And why me?" Sarah stood, still holding Lily's hand, as if afraid that if she let go, she would vanish. "They're Gideon Blackwood's men," she said, her voice low and sharp. "He runs the orphanage in Redstone, but it's not a foster home. It's a place where kids disappear. We saw him kill a woman, a journalist. She had evidence of what he did." I felt my blood run cold. Gideon Blackwood. The name was a curse. He was a wealthy businessman, owned half the town of Redstone, from banks to saloons, from copper mines to shipping lines. He had his hands everywhere. The sheriff, the judge, even the cattlemen I'd heard rumors about. But I'd never faced him. I was a loner, a nobody, and I liked it that way, until now. "What evidence?" I asked, trying to keep my voice even as my heart pounded. Sarah dug into her tattered dress and pulled out a small leather notebook, the cover frayed and stained with blood. She handed it to me, her hands shaking but her eyes steady. I opened it, and each line felt like a punch to the chest. Names, dates, sums of money. A long list of children who had been transferred, not adopted but sold. Some were sent to mines and worked to death, others to places that made me want to throw up just thinking about them. And the youngest, they were simply labeled special orders for unimaginably large sums of money. "Sweet Jesus," I whispered, my hands shaking as I turned the pages. This wasn't just evidence of a murder. This was evidence of a criminal network that spanned 3 states. "Do they know you have this?" I asked. Sarah nodded. "They ransacked her room after they killed her. We took it and ran. That's why they chased her. Without us, there would be no witnesses." I closed the book, feeling like I was holding a bomb. This thing might topple Blackwood, but it would also make whoever held it a target. And now it was in my hands, a herdsman who was destined to die today. The hoofbeats were clear now, so close I could hear their panting. I tucked the notebook into my jacket and turned to Sarah. "Take them to the cellar. There's a hidden entrance under the old cart behind the house. Stay there no matter what you hear." Sarah nodded, but her eyes were filled with worry. "What about you?" "I'll make them think you were never here," I said, knowing it was a shaky promise. These men weren't the type to be fooled. They had money, power, and ruthlessness. The girls disappeared behind the house, and I stepped outside, closing the door behind me. I picked up my old rifle, the only thing I had left from my days in the army. The dust settled now, and 4 men on horseback stopped about 20 yards away. The leader, a man in a black coat with a deputy sheriff's badge glinting in the sunlight, looked at me with a fake smile. "Good afternoon," he called, his voice filled with false politeness. "I'm Deputy Sheriff Amos Kane. We're looking for some runaways from the Redstone Orphanage. 4 girls, ages 6 to 15. I leaned against the shovel, trying to appear calm. "No one. There's no one here but me." Kane narrowed his eyes, scanning the ranch like a hawk. "We have a warrant for a 50-mile radius. These kids are dangerous. They steal property and may be involved in a serious crime." I almost laughed at the blatant lie. Danger? 4 girls with torn dresses and bruises? But I saw Kane's hand near the gun, and the other 3 men were already spreading out as if preparing to surround him. I knew the drill. They weren't here to ask questions. They were here to kill. "As I said," I replied, my voice stiff. "No one in sight. This is my land, and you had better hurry." Kane smiled, but his smile was as cold as the winter desert wind. "Listen, Harlan. We know they're here. Get them out, or things will get a lot worse." He knew my name. That made me shudder. They were prepared, they had thought. I wasn't just dealing with a few henchmen. I was dealing with a system that worked behind Gideon Blackwood's back. But when I looked into Kane's eyes, I saw something else, the confidence of someone accustomed to intimidating the weak. He didn't know me. He didn't know that I had nothing to lose. "You guys can search me," I said, my voice calm but my hand tightening on the gun. "But make it quick. I have work to do." They dismounted and began to search. I stood there watching them turn the stables upside down, check the woodpile, and head for the back of the house. My heart was pounding, not with fear, but with something deeper, a rising anger. Anger that children like Sarah and Lily had to run like predators. Anger that people like Blackwood and Kane thought they could run the world. And anger at myself for letting myself become a coward, hiding from the world for the past 3 years. A man came back from behind the house shaking his head at Kane. Not found, but Kane wasn't satisfied. He looked at me, then down at the hole I dug. "What are you burying, Harlan? It looks like a grave." "Dead horse," I lied, my voice unwavering. "Sick yesterday," Kane sneered. "Buried close to home? Odd." "My business," I replied, stepping closer, my hand ready to draw my gun. "Are you done?" He looked at me for a long moment, as if trying to read my mind. Then he nodded to his men. "We'll be back, Harlan, and when we are, I hope you'll be more cooperative." They mounted their horses and rode away, leaving a cloud of dust behind them. I stood there, watching them until they were out of sight, then ran toward the cellar. Sarah and her siblings were huddled together in the shadows, their eyes filled with fear and hope when they saw me. "Are they gone?" Sarah whispered. "For now," I said. "But they'll be back. And next time they'll bring more people." Sarah bowed her head, her voice trembling. "We shouldn't have come here. You're in danger now, too." I looked into her eyes, then at Lily, Clara, and Hannah. They were small, vulnerable, but they had survived 2 days in the desert, carrying a secret that could change the world. And I, Jacob Harlan, the herdsman who had given up everything, now faced a choice I could not avoid. I clutched the notebook in my shirt, feeling its weight. "You stay here," I said, my voice firm, "and I will protect you, whatever the cost." The night fell like a black curtain, broken only by the flames of the torches that Gideon Blackwood's gunmen threw onto my roof. I stood in the darkness of the cabin, rifle in hand, my heart pounding like it was about to burst out of my chest. The sound of horses' hooves, the screams, and the cracking of wood under the heat of the fire surrounded me like a nightmare. But I was no longer the Jacob Harlan of that afternoon, the man who dug his own grave. I was a man fighting, not just for my life, but for the 4 little girls hiding in the cellar, carrying the secret that could topple an entire criminal empire. Sarah led Clara, Hannah, and Lily down into the basement, but I knew it wasn't safe. The fire was spreading fast, and black smoke was billowing through the cracks, making me cough. I heard Deputy Sheriff Amos Kane yell from outside, his voice as sharp as a knife. "Harlan, get the kids out here, or we'll burn this whole house down." I crouched behind the broken window, peering out. 8 men, not 4. They were back, a small army with them. They moved like wolves surrounding the farm, cutting off any escape. I knew they wanted more than the girls. They wanted the notebook, the only evidence that would expose Blackwood's crimes. And they wanted me dead, so there would be no one to tell the story. I fired the first shot, aiming at the nearest man who was trying to throw another torch onto the roof. He fell, his screams mixing with the panicked neighing of horses. In response, a hail of bullets flew, tearing through the wooden wall, sending splinters flying all around me. I rolled, dodging the rain of bullets, and fired again, taking out another man who was trying to reach the stables. I wasn't a great shot, but I'd been in the army, faced men who wanted to kill me, and now I had a reason to live, a reason I hadn't had 3 years ago. But the fire was spreading fast, the roof creaked, and the smoke was so thick that I could hardly breathe. I heard coughing from the cellar, and my heart sank. The girls were suffocating. They couldn't stay there forever. I had to do something, anything, to give them a chance to escape. "Sarah," I shouted, my voice hoarse. "The back bedroom window. Can you open it?" "No," Sarah replied, her voice mixed with panic and coughing. "It's stuck," I cursed under my breath. This house was becoming a death trap. To go outside was to die, but to stay was to burn. I needed a plan, and I needed it now. I ran to the kitchen and pulled out a can of blasting powder I'd used to blast rocks in the prairie. If they wanted fire, I'd give them something worse. I scattered gunpowder around the kitchen, creating a line of fire, and grabbed a kerosene lamp. The gunmen were closing in, and I could hear their footsteps on the porch. They thought I was cornered. They were wrong. I lit an oil-soaked rag, threw it into the line of gunpowder, and dashed out the back window, just as the house shook with a tremendous explosion. The back wall exploded in flames and smoke, knocking 2 men down. I rolled on the ground, my ears ringing, my eyes blurred by the impact, but I was alive. Through the firelight, I saw the girls. They were near a cart 50 yards away, tied up, surrounded by the remaining men. Sarah struggled, but one of them grabbed her, tearing her already tattered dress further. I saw the blood on her face, and a rage burned inside me, hotter than the flames burning the house. They had hurt her. They had laid hands on a child. I stood up, rifle in hand, and charged at them like a wounded animal. I shot, and one fell. I shot again, and another clutched his shoulder, staggering. But there were more of them, and I was alone. A bullet grazed my shoulder, stabbing me like a knife, but I didn't stop. I couldn't stop. Not with Sarah looking at me, her eyes both desperate and hopeful. Not with Lily, with her ragged doll, sobbing, calling me Uncle Jacob. "Harlan!" Kane shouted through the smoke and flames. "You are protecting criminals. Release them, or I swear I will shoot every single one of them." He was behind the cart, holding a pistol to Sarah's head. I stopped, the gun still in my hand, but my fingers were shaking. System, shaking on the gun stock. I knew I couldn't let him live. I had to protect the girls, even if it cost me my life. I looked into Kane's eyes, saw the cruelty in them. He wasn't joking. He was going to kill Sarah, and then the rest of the children. But I also saw Sarah's eyes, the eyes of a girl who had endured so much and still refused to give in. I couldn't let her down. I lowered my gun, but not to surrender. I was calculating. I still had a concealed pistol in my boot, a gift from my army days. I looked Kane straight in the eye, smiling coldly. "You're wrong, Kane," I said, my voice as deep as thunder. "I don't protect criminals. I protect the children you and Blackwood have turned into prey." He smirked, but it froze as I drew my pistol and fired 2 shots into his chest. Kane fell, blood spattering the ground, and the remaining gunmen panicked. I seized the moment to rush toward the girls and cut Sarah's ropes. "Run!" I yelled. "Head for the ravine. There's a cave 3 miles away." Sarah grabbed her sisters by the arms and pulled them away. But I knew they weren't safe. The hoofbeats came again, louder this time, more ferocious. Gideon Blackwood was coming, leading an army. I turned, facing the darkness, ready for the final battle. I ran after the girls, blood streaming from the wound in my shoulder, each step tearing at my flesh. But I didn't care. I had to get to the ravine where Sarah had hidden them. The sound of their pursuers' hooves grew closer, like a thunderclap from hell. I knew Blackwood wasn't alone. He had an army with him, at least 20 of them, all professional marksmen who wouldn't hesitate to kill children to protect his secret. As I crested the hill that led down into the ravine, the sight that greeted me made my heart sink. The cart was overturned, its wheels spinning in the light of the torches the gunmen had thrown into the dry brush. Sarah was kneeling behind the cart, holding a rifle she had picked up somewhere, firing carefully at the 6 men surrounding them. Clara and Hannah shielded Lily, crouching behind a large boulder, but their situation was hopeless. The ravine was a trap. There was no escape. I dove down, shooting one of the men as he approached Sarah. He fell, blood spattering the red dirt. I fired again, wounding another in the shoulder, ruining his aim. But then a hail of bullets came at me from behind, from my pursuers who had just caught up. I rolled, dodging the rain of bullets, and took cover behind a fallen tree. I counted 6 men in the ravine, and at least 14 more behind me. The odds were 20 to 1. I had no chance, but I wasn't fighting for the chance. I was fighting for the girls. "Behind you!" Sarah screamed. I rolled to the side, avoiding another volley of bullets. I returned fire, taking out another man in the ravine. But then I saw Lily, the youngest, emerge from her hiding place, running toward me with a ragged doll in her arms. "Uncle Jacob!" she cried, her voice cracking with fear. "Help us!" I saw a man raise his gun and aim at Lily. Without thinking, I rushed out of cover, grabbed her, and rolled behind a rock. A bullet hit my chest, and the pain was like being ripped open, and blood soaked my shirt. I held Lily tight, whispering, "It's okay, little girl. Uncle Jacob is here." But I knew I was losing blood. I didn't have much time. Sarah was still fighting, but she was running out of ammo. Clara and Hannah tried to protect Lily, but they were surrounded. Blackwood's gunmen were closing in, and I knew we couldn't hold out much longer. But then, from the east, I heard bugles, federal cavalry. They were coming, but they were too far away. We didn't have time. I saw Gideon Blackwood at the top of the ravine, riding his expensive white horse, his eyes full of murder. He knew Sarah had the notebook, and he would stop at nothing to get it. I had only one bullet left in my rifle, and I had to make a final choice. I could shoot Blackwood, but that wouldn't guarantee the girls would live. Or I could create a chance for them to escape. I aimed at a loose pile of rocks on the side of the ravine where the gunmen were standing. I fired, and the pile collapsed, burying two of them and sending the rest into a panic. Sarah took the opportunity to pull her sisters toward me, the notebook still tucked into her torn skirt. "The cavalry is coming," she shouted. "I see their dust." "Kill them all. Leave no witnesses," Blackwood shouted, but his gunmen wavered. The bugles meant the Confederacy, and the Confederacy meant questions Blackwood's money could not buy. A few of them ran, leaving Blackwood and 3 of his most loyal men. The cavalry appeared, their green shirts and swords glinting in the firelight. Captain Thomas Wright shouted, "This is American troops. Drop your weapons." Blackwood, in desperation, raised his gun and aimed it at Sarah. I pulled out a pistol from my boot and fired 2 shots into his chest. Blackwood fell, blood staining the red ground. The other 3 surrendered immediately. I fell, my strength leaving me. Sarah ran over, the notebook in her hand. "You did it," she whispered, tears streaming down her cheeks. I smiled weakly, feeling my breathing growing weaker. "Keep the notebook," I said. "Give it to someone who can't be bribed." 6 months later, I stood on the front porch of my new home, watching 4 little girls play in the yard. My farm, once a ruin, was now built from new wood, sturdy and full of life. Sarah, now 15, was teaching Lily how to tie rope, her smile bright in the New Mexico sun. Clara and Hannah were chasing each other, their laughter echoing like a song I never thought I would hear again. And Lily, the youngest, ran to me with a carefully sewn doll in her arms, calling me Father Jacob. I never thought I would survive that night. The bullet in my chest nearly killed me, but the cavalry medical team worked tirelessly to pull me back from the jaws of death. As I lay unconscious in the medical tent, Sarah handed the notebook to Captain Thomas Wright. He, an upright man, passed it on to an incorruptible federal marshal. The notebook exposed a web of evil, from Blackwood's orphanage to corrupt officials in 3 territories. The orphanage was closed, those involved were arrested or fled, and the name Gideon Blackwood was now a dark memory. I looked at Sarah, now the leader of this small family. She had helped me turn the farm into a safe place for children who had been abandoned by the world. Clara and Hannah were now attending school in town, their nightmares fading. Lily still carried the doll, but her smile was back, bright as the sun. I had been a herdsman, a gravedigger, thinking life was not worth living. But these girls changed all that. They pulled me out of the darkness, showed me that even a broken heart could be healed. When Sarah called me Daddy, I felt a warmth spread through my chest, as if Mary and Tommy were smiling somewhere, pleased with the person I had become. As the sun set over the desert, I realized that I had not just found redemption. I had found a family, and in a world filled with evil, that was the most precious thing I could have. If this story of redemption and courage gripped your heart, give it a thumbs up and drop a 2 in the comments. Stick around for a twist that'll leave you speechless. Share this tale with friends who love a gritty, soul-stirring Western. Subscribe for more stories that hit like a desert storm. What would you do to protect the innocent? Let us know below.